Gopijana Vallabha Girivaranari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaranari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaranari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Jai Om Vishnupat, Paramahamsa Paricharya, Ashtata Sri Srimati. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupat, Paramahamsa Paricharya, Ashtata Sri Srimati. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Iskon Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Goklananda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Sitarama Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaunitai Bhagwan Ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. So this is the second day of our special classes leading up to Ram Navami, the appearance of Lord Ramchandra. And so we have selected the Bhagavatam verse from the 9th canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the 9th chapter. Sorry, the 9th canto, 11th chapter, 9:11. It's not particularly why I chose the verse. If there are any Americans amongst us. Ashita margam gandodihi. Karinam madha shikarihi. Swaminam praptam alokya. Matam va sutaram ivo. Ashito margam gandhodhi. Karinam mada shikarahi. Swaninam praptam alokya. Matam swasutaram ivo. Ashito margam gandhodahi. Karinam mada shikarahi. Swaninam praptam alokya. Matam vasutaram iva. Mataji's. Ashita Margam. The streets were sprinkled. Ganda Uddahi. With perfumed water. Karinam. Of elephants. Mada Shikarahi. With particles of perfumed liquor. Swanimam, the master or proprietor. Praptam, present. Alokya, seeing personally. Matam, very opulent. Va, either. Sutaram, highly. Eva, as if. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. During the reign of Lord Ramchandra, the streets of the capital Ayodhya were sprinkled with perfumed water and drops of perfumed liquor, thrown about by elephants from their trunks. When the citizens saw the Lord personally supervising the affairs of the city in such opulence, they appreciated this opulence very much. Purport. We have simply heard about the opulence of Ramarajya during the reign of Lord Ramchandra. Now here is one example of the opulence of the Lord's kingdom. The streets of Ayodhya were not only cleaned, but also sprinkled with perfumed water and drops of perfumed liquor, which were distributed by elephants through their trunks. There was no need of sprinkling machines for the elephants, for the elephant has a natural ability to suck water through its trunk and again throw it out in a shower. We can understand the opulence of the city from this one example. It was actually sprinkled with perfumed water. Moreover, the citizens had the opportunity to see the Lord personally supervising the affairs of the state. He was not a sleeping monarch. As we can understand from his activities in sending his brothers to see to affairs outside the capital and punish anyone who did not obey the emperor's orders. This is called Digbijaya. The citizens were all given facilities for peaceful life, and they were also qualified with appropriate attributes according to Varna Ashram. As we have seen from the previous chapter, Varna Ashram Gunat Vitaha. The citizens were trained according to the Varna Ashram system. A class of men were Brahmanas, a class of men were Kshatriyas, a class were Vaishyas, and a class were Sudras. Without this scientific division, there can be no question of good citizenship. The king, being magnanimous and perfect in his duty, performed many sacrifices and treated the citizens as his sons, and the citizens, being trained in the Varna Ashram system, were obedient, perfectly ordered. The entire monarchy was so opulent and peaceful that the government was even able to sprinkle the street with perfumed water. What to speak of other management? Since the city was sprinkled with perfumed water, we can simply imagine how opulent it was in other respects. Why should the citizens not have felt happy during the reign of Lord Ramchandra? Why? The translation once again, if you could kindly repeat. During the reign of Lord Ramchandra, the streets of the capital, Ayodhya, were sprinkled with perfumed water and drops of perfumed liquor, thrown about by elephants from their trunks. When the citizens saw the Lord personally supervising the affairs of the city in such opulence, they appreciated this. Opulence very much. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvei Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastarya Bhutle Shrimate Bhakti Charu Swami Tinamine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastarya Bhutle Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschastari Satani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpa Trubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayocha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ananda Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. I humbly seek the blessings and the mercy of the assembled Vaishnavas and the unassembled Vaishnavas, hopefully through the online there. Seek those blessings today and all the eternal days to come, for you all are indeed full of desires for me to fulfill. And indeed, you're full of compassion. So do please be kindly compassionate upon me, this fallen conditioned soul. That's me. This day is the second day, as we know, of the leading up to the classes for Ram Navami. And Prabhu's, I don't know whether any one of you listened to yesterday's class by Her Grace Chitti Shakti Prabhu. It was an amazing class. So very exceptionally informative on leadership and to the point. I mean, I think she should be the next Prime Minister. It was a wonderful class. If you have not heard it, then go back in time 25 hours, because we lost an hour, didn't we? So go back in time. Now, if you're not able to go back in time, because some of you may not have the ability, then just pick up the phone and go to the YouTube and listen to it, because that's what I did. I missed the class, but it was a wonderful class and such very, very informative, to the point, specifically on the theme. And the theme given to us by our School of Bhakti is the leadership qualities of Lord Ramchandra. The Lord personally supervising the affairs of state, caring for the citizens like a father, as devotee care, like a father, enabling the people, the praja, to become Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. So this is caring for the devotees like a father, enabling the praja to become devotees of the Lord. And now this theme is totally elaborated, I feel, is totally elaborated and emphasized upon in the 9th canto of this 11th chapter, 9:11. The 11th chapter is entitled, Lord Ramchandra Rules the World. Now, can you imagine if we were all there in present? I mean, some of you may have been. I doubt it whether I was. But to experience such a monarchy. So this chapter describes how Lord Ramchandra resides in Ayodhya with his younger brothers and performed various sacrifices. Lord Ramchandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, performed various sacrifices by which to worship himself. By which to worship himself. Intriguing. And at the end of these sacrifices, and we know that he performed sacrifices for some 13,000 years, he gave land. He gave land to the various communities and brahmanas and priests. And he gave these individuals the eastern, the western, the northern, the southern directions. So one can say, then what did he have? And the balance, of course, if there is a balance, he gave to the acharya or the guru. So in essence, this is the monarch who's surrendering everything, giving everything in charity, but yet he's still the monarch. Intriguing. What an amazing culture. Lord Ramchandra's faith, his faith in the Brahmanas, and the affection for his servants, the affections for his servants was observed by all the Brahmanas who had offered their prayers. The Brahmanas are offering their prayers to the Lord and returned whatever they had taken from him. So this is intriguing. They're returning. They're being given by the Lord, by the monarch, and of course they're returning. And this is what happens when, of course, the bhoga is offered to the lordships, and out of their mercy they return it. Now, Prabhus, can you imagine if that bhoga, when Mahaprasad, is not returned? We would be in turmoil because we wouldn't get any Mahaprasad. I won't get my little plate of prasad. I mean, I hope it's a bit bigger than last time. But here, it's returned. The Brahmanas are returning the everything that's been offered. And they regarded the enlightenment given to them by the Lord within the core of their hearts as a sufficient contribution. Interesting. And Lord Ram subsequently dressed himself like an ordinary person and began wandering the capital incognito to understand the impression. Now I do hope, Prabhus, that our King Charles comes here and is wandering. Of course, he can't wander incognito because, it's not quite the right etiquette, I suppose. But back in the day, in the Vedic culture, it was disguised. Because otherwise, how are you going to know what your people are thinking? How are you going to know? Many moons ago, I came into the Brahmacharya ashram, into the shower, and the devotees didn't know I was there, and there's two devotees taking a shower, curtains closed, and they're talking about me, and they're really saying, this Neela Madhava, who the heck... Now, this is in the shower, incidentally. Who the hell does he think he is? He's ordering like this, doing this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, wow, wonderful, what a conversation here I'm observing. I should have been in disguise. And I waited there. And I somewhat relished the conversation. It was deep. And when the curtains opened, they had their gumshoes on, fortunately. And they saw me right there. And I will not name who they are. I will not do so. And they were shocked. Oh, we didn't mean it, Prabhu. But it was a learning curve for me. And this is what the monarch does. Of course, I'm no monarch. So we're hoping and we're praying. We're hoping and we're praying that the king does appear here, takes darshan of the supreme lordships, the supreme monarch, Lord Ramchandra, So if you all of you intensely pray, this is our 50th anniversary, you never know. He may appear. So by chance, one night, Lord Ramchandra hears this person talking to his missus. And generally, the talks between Mr. and Mrs. are confidential, not to be taken seriously. And as we know, this individual somewhat criticizes. In the course of rebuking his wife, the man spoke suspiciously. He spoke suspiciously of the character of Sita Devi. Now, there's a little conversation which is had in the 9th chapter of the Madhya Leela, not 9/11, but 9th chapter of the Madhya Leela from 178 all the way to 196, and really just going through this particular pastime which occurred. When Lord Chaitanya arrived at southern Mathura, which is Madurai. Anyone here from the south? Yes, I thought so. You look a bit southish. So when he arrived there, he met this Vipra. He met the Brahmana, Ramdas. Ramdas, naturally, he's got to be a devout devotee of Lord Ram. Now, if we didn't understand that, then Ramdas, So Ramdas Vipra was met, the Brahmin, a great devotee of Lord Ramchandra. After bathing in the river Kritamala, the Lord went to the Brahmana's residence to take lunch. This is a sannyasi. He's got to take lunch somewhere. But the Lord saw that the food was unprepared. Intriguing. It was probably all chopped up, the veg, but it was unprepared, and the Brahmana had not cooked it. Now, generally, the Lord does take his meal at 12 o'clock on the dot. So if you're going to invite, Gaurnitai, Lord Chaitanya, at your home, of course, most of you are resident devotees, so if you are going to invite them in your rooms, some of you may have, Gaur Gadadhar we have in Kulangana cottage. If you haven't taken a darshan of Gaur Gadadhar, they're the deities of Radha Shakti Prabhu, and just sneak in there, climb through the window and take darshan if you're not allowed to go in there. But if you do, the lordships have to be fed at 12 o'clock. So the Lord is there and nothing's ready. And so the Lord says, my dear sir, my dear Vipra, my dear Brahmana, what's going on? Where's my prasad? Where's my meal? It's already noon. And of course, he says, my dear Lord, we are living in the forest. Of course, there was no forest there. For the time being, we cannot get all the ingredients for cooking. And he says, when Lakshman brings the vegetables, fruits and roots from the forest, Sita will do the necessary cooking. So Lord Chaitanya was very satisfied in one sense, receiving this response. And finally, the Vipra hastily made arrangements for cooking because everything was there. Because he's thinking of Ram Leela. The Lord finally ate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 hours later, unorthodox, for everything is timed. The Lord was very concerned, hence he asked the Vipra Ramdas, why are you fasting? Because he was fasting, he felt so guilty. He ended up fasting. Why are you unhappy? The Lord was content. He's swatantra. Only Gauranga Mahaprabhu can be swatantra. Swatantra means independent. Many a times, Yogendra Prabhu over there thinks he's swatantra, but I'm sorry to say, you're not independent. You are dependent on people like me. I have no reason to live, the Vipra says. I shall have to give up my life and by entering the fire. Jai Shri Shri Radha Goklananda ki jai, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Gonitai Bhagwan ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I have to give up my life by entering fire or water. So he's thinking about the pastime of Mother Sita. And the Vipra, he said, this is in verse 188, the Vipra, he said, my dear sir, Mother Sita is the mother of the universe and the mother and the supreme goddess of fortune. She has been touched by the demon Ravan. And I am troubled. I am troubled upon hearing this news. So Lord Chaitanya, of course, he discovers the Kurma Purana. He discovers the Kurma Purana, as we would know. And when Ravan came to kidnap Mother Sita and she saw him, she took shelter of Agnidev, the fire god. And fire god Agnidev covered her transcendent body, and in this way she was protected from the hands of the demon. Now, upon hearing from the Kurma Purana how Ravan had kidnapped a false form of the Sita Devi, Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu became very satisfied, because hence she wasn't really taken in essence. So we see here that Lord Ramchandra immediately returned to his palace, for he was somewhat affected by overhearing this conversation between Mr. and Mrs. And fearing such rumors, the Lord feared these rumors somewhat. He superficially decided to give up Mother Sita's company. Superficially. This is what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purports. Superficially gave up the company of Sita Devi. And so he naturally banishes Mother Sita, who was pregnant. And Love Kush, the princes appeared. And of course, Valmiki Muni, as we know, gave shelter in his hermitage. Now, in Ayodhya at that time, Maharaj Lakshman begot two sons, Angada and Chitraketu, at the same time. And at the same time, Bharat Raja begot Taksha and Pushkal, two of his sons. And at the same time, Satrugna. So all four. Satrugna, he had sons, Shubhahu and Sutrashain. So everyone's appearing at the same time. So from 4 became 8. 8 appeared from the 4. When Maharaj Bharat went out to conquer various lands on behalf of the emperor, Lord Ramchandra, he fought many, many millions of Gandharvas. Now, if you fought any Gandharvas, they're powerful personalities, so don't go anywhere near them, Prabhus. But by annihilating all these Gandharvas were present at that time. Of course, no one's going to turn up in Kali Yuga. Who wants to come here in this day and age, By annihilating all these Gandharvas, Bharat Raja acquired immense wealth. Even during the time of the exile of 14 years, when Lord Ramchandra was absent, Bharat Maharaj in those 14 years multiplied the treasury 14 times. In his little hermitage in Nandagram, which is somewhat approximately 2 kilometers in the suburbs of Ayodhya, And he was situated then. Can you imagine? He's simply worshipping, the padukas of the Lord. And as people, he's sitting there, like I'm sure, if Mother Vishaka just sits there upstairs in her Vyasasan in the office, and everyone just comes along, pays obeisance, is instructed and leaves, and in that manner, Bharat Raja is controlling the whole shebang. And in that way, such wealth has been accumulated. This is what has happened. Now, of course, after describing the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra's disappearance and establishing that the Lord appears for his pastimes only, Sukadev Goswami ends the 11th chapter of the 9th canto by describing the results of hearing about the activities of Lord Ramchandra, and describing how the Lord protected his citizens and displayed affection to his brothers. In conclusion, and of course, when I kind of came across this verse and I was attracted to it, and when I kind of read, the 9/11, of course, such a calamity would not have occurred during Ram Raj. In 1973, those humongous towers were erected, and we were planning to go to Radhadesh the day before, and of course, my uncle. I lost my cousin on that day. It was about just before 8 in the morning, and he wasn't meant to be working in one of the towers. He wasn't meant to be working, and he received a call from his colleague, and his colleague said, "Look, I'm not feeling well." Now this is how karma is; it's his fate. I'm not feeling well. Can you go in on my behalf? So my cousin brother, his name was Awnish Ramanbhai Patel. My cousin, he said, "Yes, okay, I'll go in." A 28-year-old who was engaged to be married, in one sense, fortunately didn't get married. He went in that morning and got into work at around 8:30, and of course, 10 to 9, the first plane hits. And we never hear of him thereafter. So, of course, such a calamity would not particularly have occurred during Ram Raj. We wouldn't really have such sophisticated terrorist attacks. But anyway, it just reminded me, and hence, the 9/11. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is such a sweet book. It's wonderfully compiled. And in essence, it's the Siddhanta, the conclusion of the Bhagavatam. Sanatana Goswami gives us 2,516 verses. And Mahaprabhu instructs Sanat Goswami that you go and learn the Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit, he is our authority, isn't he? In Gauranga Leela, he teaches everyone Bhagavatam, and Vallabhacharya, Vallabhadatta at the same time also learnt. And when the learning came to an end, and Sanat Goswami, he somewhat had a conversation and presented his understanding and realizations in one sense. Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed, and Mahaprabhu said, "Well, now you have to compile the Siddhanta." And of course, there is that pastime. And in essence, it's the journey of Gop Kumar, isn't it? It's the journey of Gop Kumar, the intimate associate of the Lord, being somewhat left behind when the Lord leaves, and he experiences. Now, I've often wondered, I've daydreamed and fantasized that wouldn't be incredible going through such a journey, meeting all these unique personalities in that path, from Lord Shiva, and of course, when he eventually enters Vaikuntha. When he enters Vaikuntha, he's quite overwhelmed with the awe and reverence, and then he leaves Vaikuntha and he enters Ayodhya, bringing you back to Ram Leela. He enters Ayodhya, doesn't he? And it's such an amazing description which has been given. And Gop Kumar travels to Ayodhya within the Vaikuntha sky. I mean, you can get some kind of understanding, in those unlimited realms there. You've got the massive, the lotus there with Krishna Loka, Goloka, and outside of it are all the Vaikuntha planets. Now, one of those, realms is Lord Ramchandra's existence. And so he enters that, and he enters some forests, and he immediately enters this forest, and the monkeys are jumping up and down. Ooh, 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 Ram, Ram, Ram. They're constantly just chanting Ram, Ram, Ram. And he's quite captivated. And they are beautiful. These monkeys are so very attractive. And they're shouting. They're constantly shouting Ram, Ram, Ram. As he proceeds, and they gather around him, the monkeys gather around him, and they try to grab his flute. Because, he's Gop Kumar. He's a cowherd. He has his flute. And he's very attached to his flute. He won't let go. Because, wherever he goes, his flute accompanies him. He's not going to let go of it. So they're trying to grab his flute from his hand. And he then sees, he saw some people who were even more beautiful than the residents and the associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. So in Ayodhya, the description has been given that the people there are more beautiful than even Vaikuntha. I mean, can you imagine that? Both the humans and the monkeys, the monkeys being beautiful. My Lord, what kind of monkeys are they? Both the so-called humans, somewhat, and the monkeys escort Gop Kumar into Lord Ramchandra's city. When they reached the gateway, this is a gateway described, Gop Kumar was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed with ecstasy from seeing the associates of the Lord. Now Gop Kumar saw Bharat Raja, Maharaj Bharat, with Satrughna. This is in Vaikuntha. And they're seated comfortably with the monkeys. The monkeys are surrounding them, like Sugriva is there, Angada, Jambavan, he's there. And thinking that, Gop Kumar thinks that Bharat Maharaj is none other than Lord Ramchandra, for he very much looks like Lord Ram. And so he begins his prayers. He begins his Dandava pranams and prayers. And of course, Bharat Maharaj being so exceptionally humble, he immediately covers his ears. He doesn't want to hear, these prayers which are meant for the Supreme Lord. And then he says, look, I'm simply a servant of the Lord. Stop these prayers. They're not meant for me. So Hanuman then appears, and Hanuman takes Gop Kumar into the inner precincts of the city, and Gop Kumar then observed an amazing sight. He observed an amazing sight, and that sight is of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramchandra, in his form as the best of the human beings. That's what's been described. And so when we come in front of the lordships, and it's so lovely that the lordships are wearing green attire today. That's nice, isn't it? So we know that, okay, the festivities have begun. Beautiful velvety green attire. And when we take darshan of Lord Ramchandra there, he is right there. And no doubt that you're all very much amazed. And the Lord, back in Gop Kumar's experience, the Lord Ramchandra sat comfortably on a royal throne in the best of palaces. He had the best of palaces, a palace full in all charming attractions. A palace full of all charming attractions. Happy, and he's happy and marked with all the signs of a great personage. Of all the signs of a great personage. He seemed somewhat like Lord Narayan himself. So he resembled Lord Narayan. Of course, he's not Lord Narayan because he's Lord Ramchandra. And Lord Ramchandra congratulates Gop Kumar. And for his victorious entrance, the Lord says this, you have victoriously entered into Ayodhya. And the Lord assumes that the long journey which is must have had a long journey, must have been strenuous. So this is immediately how caring Lord Ramchandra is. He's immediately thinking that this poor chap must have had a long journey. Must have been strenuous. And so he asks Gop Kumar simply to take rest. Just rest a while. So he should take rest and take a break, take a Kit Kat from offering so many needless prayers and dandavats, because soon as Gop Kumar takes darshan of the Lord, he continuously pays obeisance, dandavat, pranams, and is immediately like a Digbijaya, prayers automatically manifested and continuous, continuous, and it just makes me think of our Kartik Chandra Prabhu, who can just constantly chant prayers, and that's how it was. Now, just as he had served Lord Narayan, Gop Kumar in Vaikuntha serves Lord Narayan for some time in Vaikuntha, fanning him. He fans Lord Narayan and pushing his swing. Lord Narayan has a swing in Vaikuntha. So Gop Kumar now served Lord Ramchandra for some time in Ayodhya, knowing that Lord Ramchandra is undoubtedly the supreme monarch. Now finally, Lord Ramchandra, whose heart has been described that the Lord's heart is tender with unlimited compassion, and who knows the mind of everyone. He even knows my mind, even though I don't think that no one could know my mind. And he knows the mind of everyone in the world, and he consoled Gop Kumar with words of gentle affection. And the Lord says, go to Dwarka. The Lord, in a nice, beautiful, transcendental voice, says, go to Dwarka, this is where you will find even greater solace. And this is my order, the Lord says. And he's so very compassionate, and this is where, the true emblem of devotee care, because this is part of our theme, leadership, and I've not really mentioned much on leadership, but if you want to know more, then Prabhu's, just go on YouTube and listen to yesterday's class, because it was so perfectly, leadership was so perfectly addressed. But here, we have our director of devotee care seated amongst us. And so devotee care, the Lord is the emblem, isn't he? And so he's so very compassionate to Gop Kumar. And so Gop Kumar, be gone with you. Be gone with you. And so he departs. And the Lord somewhat deputed has been described, Jambavan, that you please escort because he didn't want him to go alone. Now, Gop Kumar is used to traveling alone. If you follow his journey, he's in one sense is alone. But here, the Lord is so very compassionate. He's so very much acknowledging the aspect of Vaishnav care, and he says, Jambavan, you escort him. And Jambavan, why? Because Jambavan has relations in Dwarka. So the Lord is seeing, Jambavan wants to go to Dwarka. So he should be there. Of course, he's probably in Dwarka anyway. So he's escorted. So this beautiful, description has been given in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of the second volume of the 4th chapter, entitled Vaikuntha, the Spiritual Kingdom, between pages... sorry, I don't have the pages, but pages of my notebook. So devotee care is naturally a part of our theme, and Mother Sita is certainly the epitome, the emblem, the personification of devotee care. For she's so compassionate. And we see how compassionate she is when all the personalities, board the Pushpak Viman. After the Lord is victorious, Mother Sita is brought back somewhat, and they board the Pushpaka. Now, Sita Maharani is so exceptionally compassionate and thoughtful that she says to Lord Ram that, let's take a couple of weeks before we go back. And your coronation will be in 2 weeks' time, and because Hanuman has been ordered by the Lord that you go to Ayodhya, and he goes immediately, disguised as a Brahmana. But as the Viman, now this Viman is no ordinary Viman. It's like, Doctor Who's TARDIS, some of you may know, but some of you younger devotees may not know. But, this Viman changes. It's a living entity. It is indeed the ultimate war machine. You can't get anything better. So Mother Sita says, look, I want to take everyone. So the first spot from Lanka, the first spot is Kishkinda, the celestial realm of the Varanas. And Mother Sita is very insistent, I want everyone coming on board. The mothers and the children of the Varanas. So, an unlimited number of, individuals board the Viman. And it's quite mystical. And why? Because Sita Devi wants to make sure that everyone is present for the coronation, because she's so very much, conscious on caring for everyone and being affectionate. So it's a beautiful, pastime has been given. Of course, Prabhu's today, now I've got very little time, but today is indeed the appearance of none other than Ramanuja Acharya. So we have to say a little bit on Ramanuja Acharya, because it is his appearance. Now, in order to say something on him, on the Acharya Ramanuja, we should say something about Yamuna Acharya. Yamuna Acharya, he actually appeared in 918 AD. And he was literally almost 100 years older than Ramanuja Acharya. 99 years actually older than the Acharya Ramanuja was Yamuna Acharya. And we see Ramanuja Acharya appears in 1017 AD. Virtually half a millennia before Gauranga Mahaprabhu, 500 years. Almost, 1,000 years have passed our time. A millennia has passed. And he was here on this globe for 120 years. And he left in 1137 AD. And his appearance was in Madurai, which is considered to be South Mathura. and his grandfather, a very, very powerful personality. His grandfather was by the name of Sri Nath Muni. Sri Nath Muni. Now, Sri Nath Muni was so exceptionally powerful, and he had an amazing son, and his name was Sri Ishwar Puri. And he was so incredibly learned at such a young age. I mean, some of you personalities are exceptionally learned, and I sometimes I get baffled. I was listening to yesterday's class. I was thinking, Chitti Shakti Mataji just reminds me of Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, and devotees are so learned. And today you've got this baboon sitting on the Vyasasan who absolutely knows nothing and just reading from the papers and notes. The memory is like jelly. But Prabhu's, I have to be honest, I do get envious. How come these devotees know so much and I know squat? But these devotees, at that time, Ishwar Muni, so very, very powerful, and Srinath Muni, he marries, he gets his son married to a personality of celestial beauty. Celestial beauty. And when one gets married, there's the honeymoon, isn't there? And of course, they didn't really want a honeymoon, but instead they went on pilgrimage. They went to Vrindavan. And they got so attached because, they're in Madurai, which is now south, isn't it? And they go up to Vrindavan, and the young beautiful couple, Shri Ishwar Puri and Mrs., the name of Mataji has not been given. And they get so attached to the Jamuna. So hence, their first child, a male child, appears. And they name the child Jamuna, and hence Jamuna Acharya. Unfortunately, Sri Ishwar Puri leaves his body at a young age. And so Yamuna Acharya becomes, fatherless. And Srinath Muni then, has his wife and also the daughter-in-law and children, but he's so very devastated. He's so devastated at the loss of his son Ishwar Muni, and as a result, Srinath Muni takes the renounce order, and he takes sannyas, and he leaves the home. And unfortunately, the family enter extreme poverty. So the early years of Yamunacharya were extreme poverty, to the extent whereby the young Yamunacharya, who was exceptionally learned, but he wanted wealth. He wanted wealth. And in a debate, because in those days, as Kartik Chandra Prabhu, if you were to defeat all these devotees in debate, you'd be a wealthy individual. Because in a debate, you'd be victorious. Of course, if you defeat me, I've got nothing much. So this young Yamuna Acharya in his teens debates, and in this debate becomes victorious, cutting a long story short, and inherits a kingdom. And he enters, so-called material life, and he becomes a pounds and shillings person, very attached to wealth and opulence. Of course, in due course, due to the arrangement of the Lord, in some ways, he's then reminded of his past, and that yes, poverty was there, but that was temporary, and then he does renounce, and he becomes a powerful acharya. Now, quickly flying through the life of Ramanuja Acharya. Ramanuja Acharya in the province of Kanchi, he's there, but Prabhu's fate had it that the two never met. The two never met. Even though Yamunacharya, when he hears the success and the learned Acharya Ramanuja, when he hears of him, this young lad who is so very powerful, he thought, this is my successor. How can I bring him here to Sri Rangam? How can I, because those days, travel, I guess, was somewhat difficult. These days it's easier because you've got to walk, isn't it? So then he sends one of his disciples, Mahapurana, and he sends him to Kanchi, where Ramanuja is, with his wife. Mahapurana goes there, and really it's to bring Ramanujacharya. But then they end up staying together, they end up living together, years go by, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Came to a point whereby, naturally, if you have two ladies in one household, the example given is that, there's cutlery, when dropped, it always makes noise. So when you have two ladies in one household, there's some disagreement. So naturally, the wives of the two had a disagreement. Ramanujacharya, he devises a plan, and he devises such a plan that his wife receives a letter from his in-laws, from his father-in-law, that she has to attend a wedding, and in that way his wife leaves, and the Acharya Ramanuja takes this opportunity to escape somewhat, and becomes renounced. Of course, eventually, Prabhu's, there's a lot of detail, but to cut it all short, Mahapurana and Ramanujacharya eventually take the darshan of the great Yamunacharya. Unfortunately, Yamunacharya has left his body by that time, for he is, well over a century years old. So he leaves his body. However, we know that the great Yamunacharya is about to take, he's in samadhi, and his body is there, and Ramanujacharya appears. And Yamunacharya, in his transcendental body, he has 3 of these fingers, if you can see, and everyone online, if you can see, you can enlarge, the lens. And his 3 of these fingers, which are folded, and his thumb is like this, and his little pinky is like this. And, that everyone's trying to open these fingers, but of course they can't. And when Ramanujacharya, when he appears there, and he takes 3 specific vows. And the first vow he takes is that, remaining fixed in devotion of Lord Vishnu, I shall free. Because, he's automatically thinking that he's going to be the next Acharya, the successor, which he becomes. I shall free the people from illusion by spreading the glories of the Lord throughout the land. So as soon as he says that, the first finger pops out like this. And everyone's mesmerized. They're shocked. Of course, the Acharya is no longer there, but this is a divine convention. It's quite divine, and the first finger appears. And the second vow is to establish, he takes this vow, to establish that there is no truth beyond Lord Vishnu. To establish that there is no truth beyond Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, I shall write the Sri Bhasya, commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And immediately the second finger pops up like this, He's lying down like this. He's lying like this. And the second one appears. The third one is still left. And the third one is quite intriguing, actually. The third vow, Ramanujacharya declares, in order to show respect to the sage Parasara, to the intriguing vow, in order to show respect to the sage Parasara, who has so wonderfully described the glories of the Lord in the Vishnu Purana, I shall name one learned Vaishnava after him. One learned Vaishnava I shall name after Parasara Muni. Of course, he gives shelter to so many devotees. And Ramanujacharya, as we know, becomes an exceptionally powerful acharya. And of course, when he says that, all the fingers are straightened and they're displayed like this, with the thumb like this, and they're all manifested. So these are the pastimes of Ramanujacharya. Of course, Ramanujacharya, he did wonderful things, and he instructed. He gave so many instructions, and just as a leader, coming back to our theme, to squeeze that in, just as a leader, he led the entire sampradaya in such an amazing manner. And if you'd like to know more, there is a book which was printed in 1989. I read it in 1990. It was a wonderful book. I still have it. I refer to it now and again. And it's the life and teachings of Ramanujacharya. And so, in conclusion, Prabhus, the Srimad Bhagavatam verse 5.19.8 is most relevant. It's mentioned just in conclusion. I know you were all getting a bit sleepy now, so am I. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or a bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramchandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied, and as soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Ramchandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha. And this is the verse 5.19.8. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about, I'd like to read the purport, but I won't because of time. But Srila Prabhupada talks about Satbhuj, the six-arm form over there. And if you see that beautiful painting, it's been there for a long time. And intriguingly enough, Prabhus, you can see Lord Ramchandra's hands. You've got the bow and the arrow. But can you see that the arms are in the air? Of course, Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu's arms are down because he's got the tree dandi there, and they're down. Lord Krishna's hands, the flute is there. But Lord Ramchandra is in the air. So in one sense, Lord Ramchandra is, dancing up and down. So a beautiful purport is being given. Prabhu's, once again, we look very much forward to the classes from tomorrow onwards, and leading up to Ram Navami on Thursday. And we'll have a wonderful festival on Thursday and Sunday. And everyone participating, thank everyone for participating. We have the boat Leela on Sunday as well. And of course, Thursday we'll have Abhishek of our Ram Sheila, who's over there, who I am fearful of. A tremendous festival. Thank you so very much for listening. I do apologize if you did doze off, and I would have done the same. Any questions? Not so gladly accepted. Any comments and corrections? Please do so. Questions can be referred. We have Prayojan Prabhu here, as well as Kartik Chandra Prabhu, as well as Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu. All the Chandras are here. Of course, we have Jaini Thai Prabhu. Thank you also very much. Lord Ramchandra Prabhu, Lord Ramchandra ki jai. Anything at all, Prabhus. Sorry, it's almost 9 o'clock. Wow, wonderful, isn't it? That's great news for me. Prabhus, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Thank you so very much. Jai. Okay, I'm getting my maha now. And 2 plates, 2 small plates. And I'm getting 2 plates simply because of the mercy of Mother Premanjali there.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama